What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Hip Hop Offtrack, where we talk about the artists, producers, and people in hip hop who are making real moves outside of music. And today we're talking about one of the most creative businessmen in rap. We're talking about Two Chainz. Now, when most people think about Two Chainz, they think about the music first and they think about the punchlines, the ad libs, the chains, the confidence, the Atlanta energy, the features, the mixtape run, the albums, and of course that larger than life personality. But when you really study Two Chainz, you start to realize something. This man has always been thinking bigger than the music. Two Chainz is not just a rapper who made some money and bought nice things. He is one of those artists who understands branding, presentation, partnerships, real estate, restaurants, sports products, and the importance of turning attention into ownership. And that is exactly why he belongs on Hip Hop Off Track. Because this show is not just about who had the hottest record, it is about who took hip hop money and turned it into something outside the booth. And Two Chainz is a perfect example of that. Before we get into the businesses, let's talk about who Two Chainz is. Two Chainz, born Tawheed Ebbs, came out of College Park, Georgia, right outside of Atlanta. Before he became Two Chainz, a lot of people knew him as Tidy Boy from the group Playaz Circle. Playaz Circle had a major moment with Duffel Bag Boy featuring Lil Wayne, and that record put Two Chainz in front of a national audience. But what makes his story special is that he didn't stop there. A lot of artists get one big record and disappear. Two Chainz rebranded himself. He changed the name, he changed the energy, he changed the presentation, and then he came back stronger than before. That is one of the first business lessons in his story. Sometimes the smartest move is knowing when to reinvent yourself. A lot of people are too scared to change. They get attached to the old name, the old image, the old strategy, and the old version of themselves. Two Chainz understood that if he wanted to go further, he had to reposition the brand. And when he became Two Chainz, everything clicked. The name was simple, it was memorable, it matched the image, it matched the lifestyle. It was easy to say, easy to market, and easy to recognize. That is branding. And long before we even get into restaurants or investments, that rebrand alone was a business move, because in entertainment, your name is not just your name is your company, your name is your logo, your name is your billboard, your name is what people remember when the song is over. And Two Chainz understood that. Now, one of his biggest business moves outside of music is Esco Restaurant and Tapas. Esco is a restaurant and lounge concept connected to Two Chainz and his business partner, Michelle Snoop Dillard. This is not just a celebrity restaurant where the rapper takes a picture, does a grand opening, and disappears. Esco became part of Two Chainz' business identity. It connects food, nightlife, culture, music, and Atlanta energy all under one roof. And that is important because Two Chainz understands experience. A restaurant is not just about food, a lounge is not just about drinks. In the right city with the right energy, a place like Esco becomes a destination. People don't just go there to eat, they go there to be seen. They go there for the music, they go there for the vibe, they go there because the brand feels connected to the culture. That is smart. Because when you build a business around experience, you are not just selling a plate, you are selling a memory, you are selling a night out, you are selling a story people can post on Instagram. And in today's world, that matters. People want something they can feel, they want something they can show, they want something that feels connected to a lifestyle. Two Chainz understood that, and Esco fits that lane perfectly. Now, the partnership with Michelle Snoop Dillard is also important, because one of the smartest things an artist can do is partner with people who understand the business they are entering. A lot of celebrities lose money because they think fame automatically makes them qualified to run every business. But restaurants are hard, like hospitality is hard, staffing is hard, food cost is hard, our rent is hard, licensing is hard, customer service is hard. You can have a famous name and still fail if the operation is not right. So when Two Chainz connected with someone from the hospitality world, that showed business maturity. He brought the brand, the culture, the attention, and the vision. His partner brought restaurant experience, operations, and hospitality knowledge. That is how celebrity businesses should be built, not just with fame, with structure. And Esco became a serious business because it had both. One of the biggest parts of the Esco story is franchising. Franchising is where the business conversation gets even more serious because opening one restaurant is one thing. Turning that restaurant into a repeatable model is something different. When you franchise, you are saying this concept can live in more than one city. You are saying the brand has a system. You are saying the food, the vibe, the service, the name, and the operation can be duplicated. That is a major step. And Esco started expanding beyond Atlanta into other cities. That is important because Two Chainz is not just thinking like a local restaurant owner. He is thinking like a brand builder. A franchise turns one idea into multiple opportunities. It allows other entrepreneurs to buy into the model. It allows the brand to grow faster than one person could do alone. And if done correctly, it can create long-term income beyond music. That is exactly the type of move we look for on Hip Hop Offtrack. Because rap money is powerful, but business systems are what create legacy. And Esco shows Two Chainz trying to build a system. Now, let's also be honest that the restaurant business comes with challenges. Esco originally operated under the name Escobar Restaurant and Tapas, and there was legal controversy connected to the use of the Escobar name. Eventually, the brand moved forward as Esco. And that is another business lesson. Sometimes a brand can have a great concept, but the name or branding can create legal problems. That does not mean the whole business has to die. It means you adjust, protect the business, and keep moving. That is part of entrepreneurship. Every business owner eventually runs into something they did not expect: a lawsuit, a lease problem, a staffing issue, a slow month, a bad partner, a market change, something. The question is not whether problems come. The question is whether the business can survive the problem. And Esco kept moving. That tells you the business was bigger than just a name. It was about the experience, the food, the culture, and the brand power behind it. Now, another major business lane for Two Chainz is real estate. Two Chainz has spoken publicly about real estate and building generational wealth. And that is one of the smartest conversations any rapper can have because music money can come fast. Tour money can come fast. Feature money can come fast. But if you do not turn some of that money into assets, it can disappear just as fast. Real estate is different. Real estate gives you something physical, something that can appreciate, something that can create income, something that can be passed down. And when Two Chainz talks about generational wealth, that is the type of asset conversation he is talking about. Not just how much money you made this year, but what did you buy that can still have value 10 years from now? That is the difference between getting rich and building wealth. A lot of people in hip hop know how to get rich. Not everybody learns how to build wealth. Two Chainz seems to understand that difference, and that is why real estate matters in his business story. Now let's talk about sports. Two Chainz has also been connected to the ownership group of the College Park Skyhawks, the NBA G League affiliate of the Atlanta Hawks. That move makes sense for him on multiple levels. First, he is from College Park, so the location connects directly to his story. Second, Two Chainz has always had a real connection to basketball. Before rap fully took over, he played basketball and had serious hoop dreams. So being connected to a basketball franchise is not random. It fits his personal history. And third, sports ownership, even on the G League level, puts an artist in a different kind of room. That is the room where business, community, entertainment, and local development come together. That is bigger than just sitting courtside. That is ownership culture. And for somebody like Two Chainz, who built his brand around Atlanta and College Park energy, being connected to a local basketball organization is a powerful move. It says, I am not just representing where I am from, I am investing where I am from. That is the type of move more artists should study, because sometimes the best investment is not always the flashiest one. Sometimes it is the one that ties your name deeper into your city. Now, Two Chainz also understands marketing better than a lot of artists. One of the best examples is the Pretty Girls Like Trap Music rollout. That album was not just music, it was a whole experience. There was the Pink Trap House in Atlanta, there was the visual branding, and there was the social media conversation. There was the Trap Salon concept, where fans could get nails done as part of the campaign. And at one point, the Trap House was even used for community work, including free HIV testing. That is creative marketing. That is taking an album title and turning it into a physical world. A lot of artists drop albums and just post the cover online. Two Chainz created a place people could visit, a place people could take pictures, a place people could talk about, a place that became part of the story. That is business thinking. Because when you create an experience around a project, you give the audience more than music. You give them something to participate in, and participation is powerful. People remember experiences. They remember where they were. They remember what they posted. They remember how it felt. That is how you turn promotion into culture. And Two Chainz is good at that. He understands that marketing is not just about saying, my album is out now. Marketing is about making people care. Marketing is about creating a moment. Marketing is about giving people a reason to talk. That is one of his strongest business skills. Now let's talk about products and merchandise. Two Chainz has always had a strong sense of fashion and lifestyle branding. From his image to his album rollouts to his merch, he understands that fans do not just buy music, they buy connection. They buy identity. They buy something that lets them feel part of the movement. That is why merchandise matters. And for artists, merch can be one of the most direct business models. You build the audience through music, then you sell them something physical that represents the brand. That could be clothing, that could be accessories, that could be limited edition drops, that could be items connected to a tour, an album, or a moment. Two Chainz understands that. He has used fashion and visuals as part of his business language for years. And that connects to the bigger lesson. The artist is not just the performer, the artist can be the lifestyle brand. Now, another business area connected to Two Chainz is cannabis. Like many artists, Two Chainz has been involved in the cannabis space, including an investment connected to a Los Angeles dispensary. But this part of the story is also a warning. According to public reports, Two Chainz and his investment company sued over a cannabis investment deal that allegedly went bad. And that is important to talk about because not every investment becomes a win. Sometimes business lessons come from losses, lawsuits, bad deals, or situations where the paperwork did not protect you the way it should have. This is why artists have to be careful. Cannabis can look exciting, restaurants can look exciting, tech can look exciting, real estate can look exciting, but every business has risk. And the more money you put in, the more important the paperwork becomes. Who controls the company? Who controls the bank account? Who has voting rights? What happens if the business opens late? What happens if the business loses money? What happens if the partners stop communicating? What happens if the licenses are delayed? These are the questions that matter. And this cannabis situation shows why due diligence is everything. Because having money does not automatically mean you are protected. You need lawyers, you need accountants, you need contracts, you need audits, you need people around you who are paid to tell you the truth, not just people who tell you what sounds good. That is a major lesson for anyone watching, especially artists, because celebrities get approached with deals all the time. Like everybody has a pitch, everybody has a hot investment, everybody has the next big thing. But a real investor has to slow down and check the details. Sometimes the best business move is saying no, or at least saying, let my lawyer read that first. Now, another major piece of Two Chainz' business identity is media. Two Chainz has done a lot of work in entertainment outside of traditional music, including shows, interviews, brand partnerships, and cultural commentary. He is the type of personality that works well on camera. He can be funny, he can be serious, he can talk luxury, he can talk street culture, he can talk sports, he can talk food, he can talk business. That makes him valuable beyond rap. Because in today's world, personality is an asset. If people want to watch you, listen to you, and hear your opinion, you can build around that. That could become a show, a podcast, a documentary, a brand partnership, a social media series, a product review platform, anything. And Two Chains has the type of presence that brands want to be around. That is another form of leverage because every rapper cannot become a media personality. Some artists are great in the studio, but not great on camera. Two Chains can do both. That expands his business potential. Now, when we look at all of Two Chains' moves together, we can see the pattern. He is not just investing randomly. A lot of his moves connect back to culture, lifestyle, entertainment, food, Atlanta, basketball, and ownership. That matters because the best business portfolio usually has a theme. If every investment is random, it becomes harder to build a clear brand. But with Two Chains, the pieces make sense. Restaurants and lounges make sense because he understands nightlife and culture. Real estate makes sense because he talks about generational wealth. Basketball makes sense because it connects to his past and his city. Marketing experiences make sense because he understands attention. Merch and fashion makes sense because his image is visual. Media makes sense because his personality is strong. That is how you build a business world around who you already are. And that is the lesson. You do not have to copy somebody else's blueprint. You have to understand your own leverage. For Two Chains, his leverage is culture, personality, Atlanta credibility, creativity, and business confidence. He took those things and started building outside of music. And that is what makes him important to this series. Now, another lesson from Two Chains is that age and timing matter. He did not become a major solo star overnight. He had to rebrand. He had to wait his turn. He had to stay consistent. He had to survive being counted out. That matters because business is the same way. People want overnight success, but most real businesses take time. A restaurant takes time, a franchise takes time, real estate takes time, a sports ownership deal takes time, a brand takes time, a media platform takes time. Two Chains' career shows that reinvention and patience can pay off. He went from being part of a group to being underestimated to becoming one of the most recognizable names in rap. And then he used that recognition to move into business. That is smart because once the name has value, the question becomes, what do you do with it? Do you just spend the money or do you turn the name into a platform? Two Chains chose the platform route. Now let's talk about the bigger picture for hip hop. For years, hip hop has promoted luxury, cars, chains of clothes, clubs, bottles, and mansions, all of that. But the next evolution is ownership, owning the restaurant instead of just spending money in the section, owning real estate instead of just renting the mansion, owning part of a sports team instead of just sitting courtside, owning the merch instead of just wearing designer, owning the brand instead of just promoting somebody else's. That is the shift. And Two Chains represents that shift. He still has the chains, he still has the personality, he still has the flash. But behind that, there is business, there is strategy, there is ownership, and there are lessons. The biggest lesson is this: your brand can open doors, but your business structure is what keeps you in the room. Fame can get attention, but structure builds wealth. And Two Chains seems to understand that. And now, does every move become a win? No, that is part of business. The cannabis lawsuit shows that even successful artists can run into bad investments or complicated deals. Restaurants can be difficult, franchises can be difficult, brand expansion can be difficult, but taking calculated risks is part of entrepreneurship. The key is learning, adjusting, and continuing to build. That is what separates people who are just rich from people who are really building something. So when we talk about Two Chains outside of hip hop, we are not just talking about a rapper with a restaurant. We are talking about a man who rebranded himself, built cultural value, entered hospitality, explored franchising, moved into real estate, connected with sports ownership, used creative marketing, and continued expanding his business identity beyond music. That deserves attention because hip hop needs more stories like this, stories that show artists doing more than performing, stories that show ownership, stories that show strategy, stories that show the next generation that music can be the beginning, not the whole plan. That is why Two Chainz belongs on Hip Hop Off Track because he shows that a rapper can be funny, flashy, stylish, and still be serious about business. He shows that you can come from College Park and end up in ownership conversations. He shows that you can reinvent yourself and build bigger. And he shows that if you understand your brand, you can stretch that brand into different lanes: restaurants, franchising, real estate, sports, media, and merch, marketing. And that is a full business ecosystem. And that is the point. The goal is not just to make a hit, the goal is to turn the hit into leverage, then turn the leverage into ownership, then turn the ownership into legacy. So salute to Two Chainz for showing that there is business behind the chains. Because at the end of the day, anybody can wear two chains, but not everybody can turn the name into a company. This is Hip Hop Off Track, where we follow the money outside the music. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and drop a comment below. Who should we cover next? Should we break down Rick Ross and his franchise empire? Or should we talk about Nas and his tech investments?